Hey folks, thanks for checking out the podcast. Just wanted to give you a quick little disclaimer. We're going to be talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie. I believe it's rated, PG? I'm pretty sure. This podcast is not. um, there is crude and otherwise profane language in here. I, I just want to put that out there. This is not aimed at the target demographic for the movie. Although, I'm pretty sure the target demographic for the movie is people that grew up with Mario and now have kids. But either way, uh, not one for the kiddos, not a E for everyone podcast. Additionally, we will be looking at spoilers for the movie just right up front. Um, If you haven't seen it yet, please do. It's great. There's your spoiler-free review right there. But from here on out, we have spoilers for the Super Mario Brothers movie. We have some spoilers for Fight Club. Arguably, spoilers for Empire Strikes Back, but I don't think so. Uh, so yeah, with that, let's move on to the actual podcast. Hey there, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Screen Time Podcast. So, we are going to be talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie. And hopefully, if you look down in the description of this video, you should find a a timestamp for when the actual movie talk starts. But before we get into that, and again, I should, in theory, have attached a little notice alongside the spoiler warning before this point in the show, but let me just say one more time. This movie is a PG movie. This podcast is not. So can we just be chill, okay? Before we get into our film talk, we are gonna do a little segment I like to call What I'm Fucking With Lately. Uh, where basically I just talk about what kind of media I've been vibing on outside of what we're actually here to talk about. And I have absolutely zero notes. I don't even have my phone on me if I did have notes. So I'm just gonna see how this goes because I wasn't planning to do a podcast tonight. I just saw the film and said I need to talk about that and make that an episode. So here we go. Um, I guess it'd be easiest to start off with movies. Um, I've been in a movie watching lull lately. Um, and by lately, I mean the past couple months, where, I would watch a couple Christmas films in December, and then once January hit, I really just slowed down. I would watch one once in a while, but I wasn't really getting into it as much. I'd just end up, finding myself on Hulu for a couple hours before bed, and that was the end of it. But 4 or 5 nights ago, I think, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down and have a movie night. Like, I'm not gonna put it on in the background while I mess around on Instagram. I'm not gonna have it on in the background and, do random things and get up to make a snack for 5 minutes and come back. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch a movie. And so I figured it had been a little while since I watched Fight Club. And it was time. I feel like Fight Club is sort of like a measuring stick for maturity. In that, like, I first saw it when I was, man, somewhere around 15 to 16. I can't remember. It was ninth or 10th grade. Um, I had read the book first at my English teacher's insistence. Um, I had a really cool English teacher in ninth and 10th grade. I don't want to say your name over the podcast, uh, and you probably wouldn't recognize my voice because I'm not 15 anymore, but on the incredibly bizarre chance you ever find this podcast, props to you. Anyway, um, so my first experience with the Fight Club story was the book. Um, I simultaneously liked it and hated it when I read it. Like I didn't have like the most well developed brain at 15. I don't know who really does, but like, there I'm sure there were people in my grade that could have read Fight Club and be like, "Yeah, I have somewhat of a grasp on what this book is about." And I don't know. It was an overwhelming experience reading the book. Like, it was just so out there and different from anything I had consumed before that, like, when I read it, I I don't know, I just kind of accepted that it was overwhelming and just let it hit me. Um when I watched the film for the first time, I'm like, okay, this kind of helps me put the book into perspective and whatnot. And I really, really liked the film, even though, like, my watching experience wasn't ideal. I I watched it on like one of those portable DVD players. Um, I feel like I feel like if you have a mental image of what I mean, you're probably on the older half of Gen Z or older. And if you don't know what I mean by a portable DVD player, like, man, I, I don't have a lot of opportunities at 25 to go into old guy mode. But, like, do you remember portable DVD players? Like, a lot of times they looked like a laptop, like they folded, and you just put a DVD in, and it had, like, play, pause, menu, navigation buttons, and that was it. That was the whole device. It played DVDs, and you could take it places. Anyway, I watched it on one of those, and the player was at the end of its lifespan, so it skipped a lot. Like, for those of you on the younger Gen Z spectrum, you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast right now, but, think buffering, but with DVDs. I don't know why I'm going into old guy mode all of a sudden. Anyway, it skipped a lot. I probably missed 20% of the movie just through skipping, but I really liked it. Like, I'd have to pause it and unpause it to hopefully get it to play for a couple seconds. It was a messed up viewing experience, but I really appreciated it. And of course, 15 or 16, watching Fight Club for the first time, it was a whole thing about, like, oh, this is my jam right here. Like, this is so smart and insightful, and, like, yeah, I get it, Tyler's a bad guy, but, like, like, if he wasn't, he'd be brilliant. And, like, you know, I probably watched it a couple times at, like, 15, 16 when it was brand new. Maybe watch it again at around, like, the end of high school, once or twice. around like 19 and 20. Um, college vibes. It was like, I took a screenwriting class as a 20-year-old in college. I must have rewatched Fight Club at some point in there. And then, I think I watched it again at like 22, and I had that like Fight Club dip where I'm like, I think I might have just moved past this movie at this point. It started to feel really immature and whatnot. And and then I watch it again as a 25-year-old, and it's like, okay, yes, it is immature and whatnot, you know, but like that's the point. You're supposed to like go on like this kind of adventure with it where at first it's like, man, these are like some really cool new ideas and I'm really just into it. And eventually you kind of start to be like, all right, I don't know, man, some of this is a little whack. And then you finally get to a point where you're like, I think I might be done with this. And then you watch it one more time and you're like, oh, okay, I see what this is about. you know i I no longer like look up to these characters. Now I look and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of like, that's cute. Like, it's weird when you eventually start to look at Fight Club and Project Mayhem and be like, oh, that's kind of cute. Oh, like you're trying to be a philosopher right now. Oh, like, I feel like, I mean, that sounds condescending. It's an incredibly well written story in both novel and film form. But you know what I mean? You kind of get to that point of like killing your masters or whatever phrase I heard used in discussion of the film a couple years ago. Where you're just like, you know what? Like, I can see what you're doing and appreciate some of it while rejecting the nonsense. Like I guess we're just spoiling Fight Club here. You go through like the same journey with the movie that the narrator does with Tyler, just over the course of like 10 years. Where you're at first, you buy in hook, line, and sinker. You're in for the ride as you go along. You start to question some things, and then you're like, maybe you're not all you're cracked up to be. Maybe there's a cautionary tale in here. Who knows? Anyway, so I watched Fight Club, and I fucking loved it. You know, it was murky, it was grimy. It kind of had a not like aesthetically psychedelic, but just sort of psychedelic vibe in the undertone, where you're just watching this movie like, what is this fucking wacko world that's being depicted to me? You know, man, I like Fight Club, okay? Yeah. Anyway, and like, I feel like the first comment that's ever gonna get on this podcast is gonna be someone saying like, "Oh, you talked about Fight Club." I kind of walked into that one, um, and I mean, whatever, it's better than no comments. Not by much, but I feel like that's kind of a thing where it's like the equivalent of when you're in soccer practice as a kid, and like you're packing up all the equipment to like throw it in the coach's van and whatnot, and someone sees you pick up a soccer ball and they're like, "Oh, you're using your hands," and it's like, dude, practice is over. Come on. Yeah. What else did I watch? I watched something the other night. Damn it. Oh, just 2 nights ago, I watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and had a fairly similar experience to watching Fight Club, where I first saw Scott Pilgrim versus the World when I was 13. I remember that because it was my 13th birthday, and I got to go to the local. It wasn't the local gas station. It was the local grocery store, which went out of business shortly after that. But I got to go to a physical location and rent a movie. Like a physical hard copy. I rented a DVD from a business. And then I brought it back later. Man, old man mode. It's kind of fun. Anyway, uh, it was my 13th birthday, and my mom was like, hey, you can rent a movie. It can be a PG-13 movie. And I'm like, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We watched it together. um, I liked it considerably more than she did. And yeah, I feel like I could, and let's be honest, I will do an episode of screen time for both Fight Club and Scott Pilgrim. Um, and this part is taking longer than I thought. I talk about Fight Club quite extensively, apparently. Uh, but I liked it. I loved it. I I watched it quite a bit over the years. Kinda had a lull when I was I don't know, 17. Kind of had another lull with it when I was 19, maybe 20. 21, 22. I was all about the movie. I don't think I had seen it for at least a year, probably, at this point. And I finally hit that point where where I'm older than the main cast of Scott Pilgrim. I mean, I'm the same age as Wallace, but, I'm older than all the members of Sex Bomb. So, that made me feel pretty crusty. um, I I thought going in that Steven Stills, aka the Talent, was 25. He's not. He's 22. That rocked my world. So yeah, and throughout the movie, by the way, I was pretty baked watching this one. I think I think by the end of it, I was crossfaded, but I started out pretty baked. And I kind of had a magical moment where, very similar to how Fight Club worked, um, I kind of started to look down at the characters a little more. Not in a condescending way or anything, just in a. When I first saw it, I was 13, and I'm like, oh my god, these guys are so fucking cool. That's gotta be what my early 20s are like. That's what I'm striving for. And, when I was in my early 20s and whatnot, I'm like, man, I get that these guys are supposed to be losers, but they're still, cooler than me, and they look like they're living their lives more than I do and whatnot. And now I'm 25, and I'm like, these people suck. I love them, but they suck. And so, yeah, I feel like that's a moment of growth for me. Uh, TV shows. What have I been watching? I've been watching some My Hero Academia season five. Um, the first episode of the podcast was seasons 1 and 2. Um, Probably, I think at some point, my co-host and I will cover My Hero again. I don't know to what extent. I don't know if we'll do like season 3 or if we'll just do some favorite moments, what we'll do, but I'm sure we'll come back to it. Um, I've been watching some. Uh, I've been watching Bob's Burgers as it comes out. I'm up to date with that. Uh, Ooh, that was aggressive. I cracked a Diet Coke before this episode. Um, that's just kind of the energy that I think this podcast needs is can of Diet Coke. It hits different than out of a bottle. Good old DC. Anyway, watching My Hero, watching Bob's Burgers. Yeah, TV hasn't been a lot for me lately. I've been watching some King of the Hill. Not as much as Bob's Burgers, but I'll come back to it. I had a really good time watching some How I Met Your Mother lately. Like, I don't know what sort of vibe I've been on lately with, like, I don't know, realizing that, like, media things that I've been looking up to are not, like, the best representation of life. I don't know what I was trying to say in that moment. My brain started to form an idea, and then it said, you know what? Nah. Fuck you, figure it out. And then I didn't figure it out. But, like, somehow, I feel like there's a vibe that connected my Fight Club viewing, my Scott Pilgrim viewing, and my How I Met Your Mother mini marathon, which I think happened in between the two movies. Where I'm just like, man, this is like people living their lives, these romanticized versions of hanging out with your friends and having shenanigans ensue and whatnot. And, just somehow there's a vibe that connects those three. And I don't know what it is, but I've been on a vibe. And, yeah. Oh, I need to write notes for this show. Let's just talk some games, alright? So, for games, what have I been doing? Well, I can tell you that probably in the episode that comes out after this, which I've already recorded, you're gonna hear me talk about acquiring a PlayStation 3. I regret to inform you that I believe that PlayStation 3 has gone to the great, what's it called? The great TV stand in the sky. Gonna recommend you to the TV stand in the sky. I had that tune going in my brain as I was starting to say that. That's why my sentence stopped halfway through. I am a professional podcaster. So, I'm pretty sure my PS3 has bit the dust. I don't know, I don't know, I'm not technically and mechanically inclined as to diagnose the issue. I haven't Like, I still have the cords plugged in and whatnot, but I think I might have to accept that it is no longer with us. Uh, so I haven't been doing that. I was getting really into Diablo 3. I think I was only in Act 2, but I was vibing on it hard. I was into it. And I had made the decision that I was going to try to beat that game, which isn't something that I do. I don't really beat games for the most part. Um, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I told my co host I'm going to do it. And then my PS3 died. Um, but, you know, that kind of opened up my noggin to the possibility that, like, maybe I can really put some focus into an RPG and beat it. And I thought, you know what? I have owned Pokemon Fire Red since I was 10 years old. I remember getting it on my 10th birthday and thinking, oh my god, I'm just like Ash. Um, but yeah, I've owned Pokemon Fire Red for 15 years now. I don't think I've made it past the third gym. If I have, I haven't made it past the fourth gym, I can tell you that. Because my brain just doesn't work for solving problems, I guess. I don't know. I'm I'm not the type of person who gets to a stuck point in the game and figures it out. I'm the type of person who gets to a stuck point in the game and goes, well, the game has been fun up to this. I'm gonna replay the parts before this, and, like, occasionally I'll just use my imagination to create, like, extra story and motivation behind the levels or whatever. Like, I played the first, 2, 3 levels in 007 Nightfire so many times because I got to a stuck point. That's just how I operate. But I said, you know what? Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to beat Diablo 3. But you bet your sweet ass I'm going to beat Fire Red. So I'm using Bulbasaur as my starter. I'm liking it so far. I was always a Charmander kid. My last save, when I fired up the game, I'm pretty sure it was from either late high school or college. And I had an Ivysaur on that save. Like, I walked around for a second, just to see where I was at. I had an Ivysaur. I was at the beginning of Mount Moon. So when I erased that save from the previous decade, I said, you know what, I am feeling Bulbasaur. And it's a good thing, too. I kicked Brock's ass. um, like, pretty decisively. And he was still a Bulbasaur at the time. By the way, I think I started this when I was on my previous save, so late high school, maybe college. I started giving my Pokemon names and whatnot, and I named my starter Fuck Yourself. Or what? No, it's Fuck Yourself, because there's not enough room for all the letters. Um, and so, because every time you, uh, send out, I don't know if it's when you send out your starter Pokemon, or if it's just when you send out your first Pokemon, like your first one into battle when a battle starts. But the first line is usually always go and then the Pokemon's name. So I just called my Pokemon. I'm trying to say Pokemon all the different ways that I hear it pronounced. Anyway, I send my first little pocket monster out, and And so my trainer always says, "Go fuck yourself." That amuses me more than it should. All my other her ones I've just given different names to. Like I have a Gilbert, Fernando, just different names. So I'm vibing on Fire Red. Um, I've been playing some Smash Bros. Brawl lately. Uh, like I hooked up my Wii. I've played some Wii Sports. I've played some Wii Sports Resort. I've played some Smash Bros. Brawl. I feel like I talk about all of those in the other uh, episode that I have recorded, so I'm trying not to spend too much time on them. Um, but t- today, um, in anticipation for the Super Mario Brothers movie, I hooked up my NES Classic. I, I feel like that's not what it's actually called. I feel like it's called the NES Mini. I call it the NES Classic. Um, Now I'm second guessing what it's actually called. Anyway, you know what I mean. So I hooked up my NES Classic, played some Super Mario Brothers. I haven't beat it yet, which, it's my favorite game. It's not like an exceptionally long or difficult game, but I've never beat it. um, I think I got to, what, 6-2, 6-3, maybe? I think it was 6-3. Um, Played that right before I left. That was really fun. I got really hyped for this movie. He like playing some good old Super Mario Brothers. Man, I feel like I'm pretty sure I spent like 15 minutes on Fight Club. Uh, and then when I talked about like the video game that I played today in anticipation for the movie that we're talking about, it's like, yeah, I played Super Mario Brothers. But I could talk about playing Super Mario Brothers probably every episode. Um, I can't wax poetic about it every time, especially when I'm about to wax poetic about Mario in general. So let's get into it. The Super Mario Brothers movie. Just saw it tonight. What did I think about it? What did I like? What do I think could have been improved? Did it live up to my huge hype level? I will tell you about it right after I stop this recording to take a piss. And we're back. Okay, so I just watched the Super Mario Brothers movie. That is something that I'm very happy I can say. Um, was I feel like maybe I have been able to say that before. I can't remember what the 93 film was called. I feel like it must have been the Super Mario Brothers movie. But maybe it was Super Mario Brothers the movie? I can't remember. I I own the VHS somewhere. I'm I've only seen it once. Um, I saw it at a sleepover at my co-host's house. We were. I honestly don't know. I feel like it was elementary school, probably, and like one of his siblings was like, "Yo, I found this VHS of the Mario movie," and we were like, "Whoa, we need to watch this tonight," and we did. It was an experience. I feel like if I watched it now, I'd be like, this is fun. Um, like I know it's universally considered not good, but I don't believe in bad films. I'm sure I could find something to enjoy in that. But that is not the film we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about the film that came out 30 years later, aka this week. And how how do I feel about this film? That is a good question. So, if you look on my YouTube page right now, um, I mean, if you're listening to this in the future, I don't know how to tell you to find it, but right now, it should be the previous video on this channel. You will find me talking about how excited I am for the movie before I go in and see it, and how much I loved the movie coming out of the theater. Like, it should be called Before and After the Super Mario Brothers movie. Um, and like, you can see in my face how much fun I had with this fucking film when I left the theater. And that is very, very, like, sincere. I wasn't trying to, like, be unnecessarily energetic or whatever. But, like, I was very hyped up on having seen the film. As I've let it cool down a little, and I've let my let's pretend that I didn't have a pulsating nostalgia boner for this film, what would I think about it? I do think that, like, there are some things that could have improved it. We'll get into those for sure. But first, I just want to say this movie is fucking fun, okay? I loved it. I am very happy that I saw it. I saw it in a packed theater. I'm pretty sure it was a sold out show. Like, when I got to the theater, I got there for a 6 o'clock showing. And, when I bought my ticket, they're like, okay, here's a little touch screen, pick your seat. And there were maybe 4 or 5 seats left. Burping up some Diet Coke. There were maybe 4 or 5 seats left. They were all, like, individuals and whatnot. And, there were a lot of people in the movie theater lobby. I can only assume the last couple seats after me got filled. I was in there with a crowd that was ready to see this movie, Like, I'm sure there must have been a couple people that went there out of a sense of obligation, like, Junior would like to go see the Mario movie with his friends, and I got elected amongst the parents to take him or whatever. But it really didn't feel like it, It felt like everyone that was there was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go see the Mario Brothers movie. Like, to the left of me, I had 2 people who I can only assume are a couple in their, like, mid-30s, probably. To the right of me, I have 2 kids and their dad. I can only assume he's their dad. Like, and we were all hype as fuck for this movie. If you watch my before and after video, you can watch me get ready to say hype as fuck like 7 or 8 times and think better of it, because I'm like, oh, well, this is a PG movie. And, like, when I did a video for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I used some swear words when I talked about it, and so in the title I put, like, mature language or something, because I didn't want to be that guy who's like, oh, this is my content for a kid's movie, and then I drop an F-bomb or something. But, I'm pretty sure I said this in the last segment. If if your kid can watch this movie and they, you know, get to listen to fucking MCR lyrics spoken by whatever that little blue dude's name is, I feel like they can handle a couple swear words maybe. um, Man, that was interesting. And like, man, that was interesting. I don't know whose input that was. Like, it felt like, I was expecting them to really kind of play it safe with the humor in the movie. And I mean, for the most part, I think they do. But then you have this fucking dude coming out of nowhere with like fucking My Mushroom Romance. He's like, oh, the only hope is the sweet release of death. It's like, fuck, dude, calm down. Oh man. Anyway, I was hype as fuck for this movie. I feel like that's about where the tangent started. um, I I really was like on a high coming out of this theater. Everyone walking out was having a good time. People applauded at the end. You know, I don't know if I remember that happening during Endgame. you know, like I saw this at the same theater that I saw Endgame in. And I don't know if I remember it happening there or not. Um, I, I mean, everyone was just happy to see it. Like, do you know how long it's been since I've been to a sold out movie and had everybody walking out of there like happy with what they saw? I feel like the last time that happened for me was with I'm trying to remember. Like I had a string of it happening in like towards the end of high school. It happened with The Martian. It happened with Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and it happened with The Revenant. I can't remember it happening since then. Um, I've had good theater experiences where you could tell everyone really liked it, but he might have been like more niche films and smaller crowds. But like every ass in a seat in that room walked out happy. um, that's fucking awesome. Do you know how hard it is to sell out a theater these days? Like, my fucking goodness. I saw The Green Knight in a theater with like 5 people, including myself. And 2 of the people didn't like it. I saw Demon Slayer in an audience of maybe 25. The Super Mario Brothers movie sold out my local theater and everyone was happy. I feel like we need to let that sink in for a minute. As I was walking out of the theater into the parking lot, I talked with a dude, I don't know, maybe 10 years older than me, and he had his kid with him, and we were like walking and talking about like, yeah, man, that was really good, and they should have like more like Nintendo movies and eventually have a Smash Bros movie. And I was just like, yeah, man, I've been saying Smash Bros movie since like 2004. He was like, yeah, this kid was just quoting Mamma Mia a lot. But whatever. The kid was like 5 or 6. Um, trying to participate in the discussion. And so that's something that I think and so that's something that I'd really like to take a second to appreciate. That is a hard feat to pull off. So with that said, let's get into some things that I think could have been improved with the film. Obviously, I said it before. I haven't actually recorded the spoiler warning yet because I like to make sure I put out anything that I talk about that could be spoiled. If I say something like, "Oh, it kind of reminded me of this movie," then I gotta put that movie, in there if I spoil it. So anyway, but spoilers is what I'm getting into here. Um, I obviously I think the movie is good. Okay, I think exactly as I saw it, the movie works. Okay, okay. I also don't believe in objectively bad films. So I guess I don't really believe in objective mistakes. I have a whole hippy dippy spiel that I'll probably give every couple episodes about that. um, but let's just accept that and move on here. I think separating Mario and Luigi was a bit of a misfire. I understand why they did it, okay? You know, like maybe I don't know where the idea would have started. If it would have been like, well, I feel like we need to have Peach on the rescue mission, because that doesn't happen as often in the games. I'm pretty sure she has her own DS game where you play as her and whatnot. But, generally speaking, she's not in on the action as much. So that'd be cool. We're doing something different by having a movie. Let's do something a little different by having Peach go on the mission. Maybe they were thinking it'd be nice if the girls going into the theater had a character they could relate to a little easier and whatnot. That's all cool. I don't need Mario to be saving Princess Peach for him to go on the adventure. But did you have to take my boy Luigi? I get it. It makes sense, Luigi's character arc is basically him, kind of hiding behind Mario. He's in his shadow. He kind of doesn't stick up for himself. He needs Mario to do it. He's just kind of afraid of everything and whatnot. And so, you separate him from Mario. He has to make it through the movie himself for the most part. So you send him right into the belly of the beast. You put him in Bowser's castle island flying shit. And so we get to see how the bad guys operate and how they're a force to be reckoned with through Luigi, who we already care about. The first act of this movie is fucking awesome. And so I get it, okay? And then at the end of the movie, once the Mario Brothers are reunited, eventually Luigi's able to muster up some courage and really help Mario overcome Bowser and whatnot. That all makes total sense to me. I see why they did it. I feel like the decision to do that, was already finalized before we had Chris Pratt and Charlie Day bouncing off of each other. Because that chemistry was fucking there. And I'm not a huge fan of either of those two. I don't dislike them, but I haven't seen Parks and Rec. I haven't seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Other than a couple movies with Star-Lord in it, I really don't know anything about either of them. But they fucking worked. I know, when it got announced that Chris Pratt was Mario, a lot of people had a lot of hesitation, it I think a lot of people perceived it as like a celebrity casting to sell more tickets, but no one was gonna buy a ticket just because of like who you casted to play Mario. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people had a very pessimistic reaction. I fucking liked it. I liked him as Mario quite a bit. I thought he did a really good job. I think Charlie Day did a fucking excellent job as Luigi. You know, I never for a second thought, oh, that's a voice actor. That was just fucking Luigi. And, you know, like I feel like the voice cast is getting a lot of attention for this, you know. I kind of did my post movie go to YouTube, see what Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns think. I've already done that, which I probably shouldn't have before I recorded my own thoughts, but you know, I've been watching a movie, coming home, and seeing what Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns think for like 12 years, so just kind of how it is. But anyway, you know, I like Seth Rogen quite a bit. I thought he did good as Donkey Kong. I don't think it was like as much of like the Luigi effect where it's like I didn't, maybe it's just because I'm not familiar with his voice actor as much, but it didn't feel quite the same. You know, like I'm not familiar really with the voice actor for Peach either, but I never felt like I was listening to a voice actor voice an animated character. I just felt like I was listening to Princess Peach. With Donkey Kong, I felt a little more like I was listening to Seth Rogen. Again, I like Seth Rogen. I've read his autobiography. I think it's great. I like his movies that I've seen. I think Seth Rogen's pretty fucking great. You know, he'd be on the short list of celebrities that I'd like to hang out with. I I couldn't hold up, you know, I couldn't follow him toke for toke, but I'd like to have a bowl with that dude. Um, and like he does get the job done as Donkey Kong. But if you're asking me like, do I feel the same way about Donkey Kong as I do Luigi? The answer is no. Um, I don't like ending like an assessment of something on a negative. I really did like him in the movie, you know? Like Donkey Kong's a pretty big part of the film and it works, you know? Like I am happy that Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong. Let me just say that definitively. Um Jack Black as Bowser. Hell yeah. Um I followed that dude on Instagram recently. You can tell he had a lot of fun. Like, he fucking put out a music video for the song that Bowser plays on the piano. Man, he had a fun time with it, and I had a fun time listening and watching it, you know? Like, there were some times where I heard a little more Jack Black than I did Bowser, you know? But even then, I don't know, I was just like, it's Jack Black. And he was having a lot of fun. But like, he really did sell Bowser, you know? Like, I've never been the biggest Bowser fan. You know, I'm sure it's just like ingrained in childhood, like, he's the bad guy. But like, I rarely play him in Smash. I usually either play against him in like the Mario sports games or whatnot. I never really play as him in the sports titles, or Mario Kart for that matter. But I really dug Bowser in this movie. Um, yeah, so the voice acting is great. I feel like everyone who talks about this movie is gonna say that. Um, let's see. The animation Dude, okay, let's talk about the animation in this film. So, I I wasn't like incredibly pessimistic when I heard Chris Pratt was going to be Mario. I didn't exactly envision it like how it ended up, Like I had my concerns, but I wasn't like, this movie is doomed or anything. And I'm just like, let's see where this goes. And it went really well. Where I did have some hesitation was when I found out that Nintendo was partnering up with Illumination. Now, I don't know jack shit about animation, okay? I can't draw worth a damn. I can't I can't animate anything. I've tried doing little things on that program Sticks. I don't know if any of you remember that from the middle school days. And that's about my level of animation knowledge right there. Like, I don't think I've ever successfully made a flip book. All that is to say, I'm not a big fan of Illumination. I've seen the first Despicable Me. I've seen, I don't know, scenes, if not the entirety of the second one. I've seen enough clips and marketing and whatnot for other Despicable Me's and Minions and such that I know they're not really my jam. The Despicable Me movies that I have seen are also not my jam. Again, I don't believe in bad movies, just movies that I vibe with, movies that I don't vibe with, and I didn't vibe with the Despicable Me franchise. I don't think I've seen any other Illumination movies, but I know, like, when I see a trailer for an Illumination movie, I'm not really interested in seeing it. Like, I might think, that's like a kind of cleverly written joke, when I'm seeing the trailer in the movie theater or something. But I'm never like, that looks like a movie that I'm interested in. It's usually like, I bet Kevin Hart's going to be pretty funny in that. But again, I I always have to soften my negative opinions. Just, Illumination was not my style. I don't tend to enjoy looking at the movies. It's not that I think they look unappealing, it's just that they look kind of bland to me. Um, the animation in the Super Mario Brothers movie, pretty fucking lit. Not gonna lie to you. When when I watched that first trailer, that had like Mario meeting Toad, and it had like Bowser facing off against the penguins and whatnot. I'm pretty sure those were the same trailer. I was like, that looks pretty good actually. I'm impressed. And then I sat down at the movie theater, and I'm like, you know what? Shit's banging. Like that first scene in where like you see Bowser's fucking island fortress ship come in and just like crush the little ice towers and whatnot, and you see Bowser come out and fucking throw down with them and whatnot. I got pretty hype when that Kill Bill track started up. I guess I'm easily impressed by, what do they call them, needle drops, where like, it's not like the score of the movie, they just drop a already existing song in there and whatnot. It worked for me every time in this movie, but I really appreciated the, what is it called, Fight Without Honor or something along those lines. I really enjoyed hearing that, and then, it gets deflated for comedic effect. But like the animation, I was like, my dude, Bowser's fire looked awesome. The ships falling looked awesome. The lighting looked really cool. Looks like it was at night, but you had like Bowser's ship that was all fiery and whatnot. That looked really cool. I liked the way Mario and Luigi looked in the movie. I think the I think probably the moment where I really appreciated the animation the most was so it was during the Mario Kart scene. Like they get in the cart and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, gonna get in on some Mario Kart shit." And like I tried really hard not to see much promotional material, but I did see like, oh, okay, they're gonna do Rainbow Road in this movie, and when they did it, it was pretty fucking great. Like it looked awesome, Oh, like they're driving around on a rainbow in the dark and whatnot. Fucking nobody was riding a tiger, but still pretty cool. Um, but like you know, during that whole sequence, I'm like, when I come back and inevitably watch this a second time in the theater, like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna come back to it like next week and watch it again. I'm gonna burn one down in the car. I mean, I'm more of a bowl person than like rolling something up, but I'm gonna get a little fire flower of my own going on, and before I get in there and watch it, and if I am still herbally enhanced when that scene comes on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, this is definitely gonna be something that I end up owning on Blu-ray, or I mean, I don't own a 4K player, but if I do at some point, this is something I'll own on that. It's something I'm gonna own physically. This is definitely gonna be a fun, stony movie at some point for me. Um, I'm definitely gonna watch this film while I'm all reefered up several times. But like that scene in particular, I was like, that's fucking awesome. And then immediately after that, when Mario and Donkey Kong fall off Rainbow Road, we've all been there. Like they fall into the water and whatnot. That water scene, where they're like on top of the water before we get into Super Vario Brothers. Um, when they're like riding the waves and whatnot, that looked so fucking cool. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, do I need to watch more Illumination movies? You know what I mean? Because, like, holy fuck, man. That was just so vivid. Like, there's a lot of really good animation in this film. But, like, holy shit. The waves looked fucking dope. I don't know if I've ever seen water look that good in an animated format. Maybe, except for Avatar 2. I don't know, but I feel like that's different. That's meant to portray live action. There's all sorts of CGI and whatnot, but it's meant to be a quote-unquote live action movie. Is it, though? I don't know. Are the Avatar movies animated or live action or both? Like, are they animated with live action, or are they live action with animation? That is a good question for another time. Anyway, the water looked really fucking cool. When they're, like, under the water and all the Rainbow Road pieces are falling into the water around them. That looked really fucking cool. It kind of gave me, like, Skyfall opening credits vibes, but, like, in a more Nintendo-y way. Man, I love this movie. Like, yeah, I really do. So the animation, absolutely banging. I'm, yeah. I, like, that was my biggest hesitation going in. Was like, I'm not a fan of what I've seen from this studio. You know, I'm a little nervous. They fucking nailed it. I don't know how else to say it. The animation was absolutely beautiful. Hell yeah. Um, oh man, what else? What else in this movie? Like, I don't know. I I mean, yeah, we can talk about how like, oh, the story isn't that deep or whatever. No shit. You know what I mean? Like, this is an adaptation of the Mario games, you know? Like, and like, I'm not the type of person who beats games, so it's not like I have an extensive knowledge of, like, the deeper Mario games, you know? Like, I've played, a fair. I've spent a lot of time playing Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, but I've never beaten it really. I was just a kid fucking around. And like, but you know, they're not adapting Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. They're not adapting Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. They're adapting like Super Mario Brothers, new the new Super Mario Brothers games. You know, they're basically adapting like the 2D side scrollers, that vibe, you know. Oh, Bowser's captured somebody. Let's go save him. And also like he's, you know, we got to protect the Mushroom Kingdom and whatnot. Um but like that's the other thing that kind of makes me question the separating the Mario Brothers. Like I get it, you know, Bowser kidnaps people. It's what he does. But like in this movie, he is gonna come for the Mushroom Kingdom, you know? He is gonna just straight up scorched earth that shit. And like that should be reason enough, you know? Oh, for people to try to face him. You can still have like the whole squad go to, you know, the Donkey Kong land and like try to get allies and whatnot. You know, you can still do that. Like having someone on the inside is important, you know. It lets us see how the bad guys operate and whatnot. It gives us an opportunity for more Bowser, who is really just fucking awesome in this movie. Um, and like, if you need Princess Peach to be a more active character, that's cool, you know. I get it. Like, what if we introduce Daisy? Bowser captures her. You know, Peach can still be like a meaningful member of the team, and we can have the Mario Brothers be together. Like, I'm okay with like the idea, you know, of the Empire Strikes Back type of thing. But like I don't think that strategy works as well in the first movie in a series. You know what I mean? Um yeah, I don't think that counts as a Star Wars spoiler, but I should clock that anyway. um you know, like you have Bowser take Daisy, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, we've got to save her. You could you could even like build up Toad a little more and then have Bowser take him. I'm just saying, you know, there are, but you also don't need him to take anybody. But it was important for Luigi to face adversity, to build his character, so I understand. Yeah. Um, but yeah, no. Like, really all I was saying was you don't need, like, a huge, deep story in this movie for it to make sense. I feel like maybe, like, if you're an adult watching this with your kids and you're not, like, super into the Mario games, like, you might be like, oh my god, this fucking kids movie or whatever. But, like, come on. We're adapting Mario games here. We're not here for, I don't know. We're not here for Avatar: The Last Airbender level storytelling in a children's medium. We're here for aesthetics and vibes. And this film has aesthetics and vibes for days. Like, I really don't think that, like, the weaknesses are that weak in this movie. Like, am I saying that the Super Mario Brothers movie is, like, on the level of, like, would I put the Super Mario Brothers movie alongside Spirited Away or Cowboy Bebop Knocking on Heaven's Door, or I don't know, maybe I was trying to think of something else that's like a really, like, prestige anime film or just animated film. Like, this isn't Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It's not Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But, like, it's not trying to be those films. This is just the Super Mario Brothers movie trying to be the Super Mario Brothers movie. And it succeeds in being the Super Mario Brothers movie. And if you can accept that, then I think you're going to have a really fun time with this film. Alright, so, covered most of what I planned to say about this film. I talked about how I just generally like the vibes, how I had a little bit of problems with some writing decisions, but I still liked it. Um, talked about the voice cast, which that's something that I'm, like, growing more interested in, is voice acting. I don't know jack shit about voice acting, but it's interesting me more. The absolutely banging animation, um, you know, just the whole, like, nostalgic, fun times. There were some Easter eggs in there that I caught. I know there were some that were passing me by. Like, I would, like, see something in the background or hear something, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's an Easter egg. I just can't quite put it together. Like, I was born in the N64 era, and I'm not the type of person who beats games. There are gonna be references that I miss. um, but, I enjoyed hearing the Super Mario Brothers Super Show song. That that was pretty fucking cool. um, like I own the Super Mario Brothers Super Show on DVD. I I really didn't know what I was getting into with that. I'm pretty sure I was like 12 at the time. And I'm like, whoa, there's a Mario show? That's fucking awesome. And then, I got into it, and it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I should watch that again. By the way, did you know that there's a fucking Mario manga, apparently? How fucking cool is that? I was scrolling through Instagram, and they're like, oh, here's a panel from the Mario manga, or I guess there might be multiple. and there's Zelda mangas. Like, what the fuck? It makes sense, you know. I know Shigeru Miyamoto was into manga. Did he make them? I don't know. Anyway, I was scrolling through Instagram and they're like, oh, here's a really cool panel from a Mario manga. And I'm like, hold the fuck up. There's Mario manga out there? Fuck, dude, that's awesome. Anyway, not part of the movie, just something I found interesting. Um, we need to have those mangas adapted into Mario anime. I got a little stiff just saying that sentence. Anyway, that's the second erection reference that I've made in this episode. That's probably too many. Anyway. Anyway, so I totally derailed myself. The Mario manga, the Super Mario Brothers Super Shows, the Easter eggs and whatnot. So I enjoyed seeing like the references to Punch Out. I guess like that cafe, that restaurant that they were in, is that a direct reference to the games? Like, does Little Mac retire and start a restaurant or something? Or, I don't know. But, like, it seemed to be, like, some sort of, like, sports cafe type of thing, and it had a bunch of Punch-Out pictures on there. That was great. We got to see Jumpman, you know. That was cool. Yeah. I liked that. That made me feel smart. Like I really picked up on an Easter egg. Mario playing the NES. Love that shit. Like, you know, that's just cool to me. Like I was, talked about playing Fire Red earlier, and I love how like you as a Pokemon trainer can play the NES. I mean, not really. You see it and you press A and it says, oh, whatever your player's name is, played the NES. Okay, go accomplish things, But, like, I love the fact that, like, Mario is just hanging around playing, is it Kid Icarus? Is that what the first one's called? I feel like it is, but if I totally botched the title, then my bad. But Mario playing the NES was pretty fucking cool. What were some other ones? Jumpman, Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Mario playing the NES. Fuck. There was another one, and I'm like, oh, that was clever, but it just totally gone. But like, outside of the Easter eggs and whatnot, this movie just had a lot of cool moments. Like, maybe it's immature to be a 25-year-old man and being like, man, that scene from that kid's movie was cool. But, you know what? It was. Like, Bowser's Castle, that whole introduction sequence, fucking dope. Like, it really did a good job of, like, providing, like, a sense of scale, Like, when his island thing came down and crushed those ice towers, that was cinematic as fuck. That was really cool. I liked the warp pipes. That was really cool. And also something I'm sure I'll appreciate when I watch it again, Blazed. Dude, I really hope they make another movie, obviously. Like, I hope Nintendo movies become more of a thing. But, like, I hope we get another Mario movie. And I hope somehow, some way, even if it's just a segment, kind of like the Mario Kart segment, I really hope we get to see some Mario Galaxy shit adapted to the big screen. Again, haven't beat it, but like based on how dope the Rainbow Road segment was, I'd really like to see some Mario Galaxy on the big screen. Like Mario and space. That's like two of my favorite things. But that leads me into, the Rainbow Road segment was really fucking cool. I talked about how cool, like, the water was after the Rainbow Road sequence. But the actual Rainbow Road action sequence I thought was really fucking cool. You know? I'm not the most experienced Mario Kart player, but man, that was fucking lit. Oh, what else? I thought, ooh, Luigi running away from all the dry bones. That was fucking intense. You know what I mean? Like there were a couple parts in this movie where I'm like, oh, okay, this is like actually a PG. It's not like a PG where it's like, oh, there's like, I don't know, it's not an educational movie. We better slap a PG on it. This was like an actual PG. Where it's like, hey, Luigi getting chased by those skeleton motherfuckers, and he's like actually being fucking chased. They're chasing him over the rocks and whatnot. I've never seen dry bones move like that in the games. It's like some, what's it called, like 28 Days Later World War Z shit. When normally they're like Walking Dead shit. But it made for a really good scene in the movie. They're chasing him over the rocks, floating in the lava and whatnot, and Luigi has to like pull himself up that last cliff, and they're fucking hanging off of him, and he's pushing them off. That's fucking intense. Then he's trying to shut the door, and they're reaching through and grabbing at him, which has to be a reference to a classic zombie film. I just don't know what. That whole scene was really intense. Now I was like, okay, I'm respecting where you're going with this. You are taking some risks, Mario movie. What else? I really liked Bowser's song dedicated to Princess Peach. That was kind of cool. You could tell Jack Black was just having a lot of fun in that scene. Man, the Mario versus Donkey Kong part, it wasn't as like overt of a Smash reference as I thought it was gonna be. I think I used overt right, but I'm not sure. But like when I saw, Mario and Donkey Kong coming at each other on a platform, I'm like, ooh, there's gonna be like a Smash Bros. Segment. Kind of like how there was a Mario Kart segment. And like, yeah, it kinda was, but they didn't like really commit to it. I don't know if they're just like, oh, we don't know if we're gonna make more movies after this. So we don't really want to go full on with the Smash Bros. Aesthetic. I don't know. I liked it though. I thought it worked. It provided more character depth for Mario. We get to see him struggle, get to see him not give up. We get to see like his connection to Peach some more. We get to see like, we get to see him show some good moral fiber. When he saves Donkey Kong from falling and whatnot. That was a good scene. I liked it. It fucked. I really liked in the beginning the parkour scene, like when they're trying to go to their job and they're just like doing parkour across the city, and Luigi, he is carrying all the equipment, so Mario has to like jump over a fence and then like open the door from the inside and whatnot. Kind of gave me like Casino Royale chase scene vibes. You know what I mean? Except Luigi looks a lot less impressive than Daniel Craig. um, but whatever. They have their own strengths. Um, oh yeah, I forgot about this until just now. Something that struck me as funny, probably more than it was like intended in the movie. So, like when Mario and Luigi are actually on the plumbing job, and like the dog comes into the bathroom and they have to deal with that situation. Like that struck a chord with me because like I I can't remember how it's pronounced, like the scientific name. Is it like caninophobia or something like that? I don't know. I'm afraid of dogs, and, and so like when the dog came in and all mad and whatnot, I'm like, okay, flight my fight or flight response was like, yeah, this absolutely makes sense. And when when they finally managed to capture her, the dog and whatnot, and then it's like getting ready to escape. He like is getting ready to get out of the like shower thing, and in the like heat of the intensity in the scene, Luigi's just like, Mario, that hellhound's about to escape. And like that made me like Luigi so much more than I already did, because that is something I would say. Like I'm afraid of dogs. It's something that people don't really take all that seriously, you know. um and so I will very passive aggressively give nicknames to dogs um that like I'm around, on a more frequent basis. Like the amount of times I've called my grandparents' dog and my aunt and uncle's dog Cujo, so many times. Thankfully, they take it in stride and whatnot. The Like my grandparents, aunt and uncle, I don't think the dogs get the reference. But yeah, no, I'm sure I must have used Hellhound at some point, but that was like a joke for me. Yeah, and then yeah, those were a lot of the highlights for me. I liked the ending action sequence a fair bit. Oh, I liked when we got to see Donkey Kong with a fire flower. That was fucking awesome. I didn't know I'd see that, but I'm glad I did. I really liked the scene where like Peach absorbs the fire flower and uses it to light the campfire. That just looked aesthetic as fuck. Yeah. Uh, it is about it's 2:23 a.m. I've been recording for about 2 hours. I feel like I could find little things to talk about for quite a while. But I think I'm gonna start wrapping it up. So overall, loved the film. Do I think some people are going to appreciate it more than others? Definitely. Do I think like the desire to be critical, do I think that's going to impact some people's enjoyment of the film? Yeah, Like I feel like some people are going to be like, well, it's not like perfect, it's not like as arresting as a Studio Ghibli film, it like we've recently seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, this is a very popular movie, and it's a good movie, but it's not like upper echelon of prestige animation. But like, I think that's okay. I don't think it has to be that good to be equally good. I don't. That made sense to me. I don't know that it really made sense to anyone else, but had to put it out there anyway. Like the film, wasn't a huge fan of separating the Mario Brothers for most of the movie, but I understand it. The movie works as it is. I really enjoyed it. Everyone in my theater really enjoyed it. And that's what matters. Alright, so, as we are at the end of this episode, first of all, thank you for listening to this. Especially if you're a new subscriber who came in through my Bob's Burgers, My Chemical Romance mashup video. um, and like if that's what you subscribed for, and now you're like, who is this dude talking about movies? Um, you know, that's more or less what the channel is about. I do have clips assembled for a spiritual successor to the MCR Bob's Burgers video. That might be the next editing project that I take on. Who knows? Yeah, so thank you for listening. I do like to try to give a little music recommendation, get this more well-rounded in terms of entertainment media and such. The thing is, I didn't have a song planned. I don't have a song in my head yet. I'm struggling to think of something that's like thematically relevant. Like, do I want to do Sex and Super Smash Bros., which I think I've only heard once, but I liked it. Do I want to do, like, I remember a parody song about, like, Mario pining after Peach. It wasn't by Nate Wants to Battle, I don't think, but it was in that kind of style. Do I want to kind of veer away from being directly video game related and just go off of vibes? I don't exactly know. I think, if it was to just give you like what I'm vibing on lately and just sort of just accept that I'm not going to pull off something thematically relevant on the spot. I've been listening to some Cage the Elephant lately. I'm going to recommend Flow by Cage the Elephant because I feel like that is just chillness personified. Like, I heard it for the first time when someone was teaching me how to trim cannabis plants, and he was just like, yo, listen to this song when you trim, it's really chill. And he was right. Like, the music video is just a dude skateboarding or longboarding or something in a city at night. Absolute vibes. I feel like it's a song. It's a song that's chill enough to where you could probably like put it on loop and just have it play really quietly while you're playing some Super Mario Brothers or Mario Galaxy, New Super Mario Brothers, whatever your jam is, and you could just like chill out and play some Mario to it. So that is our song recommendation, Flow by Cage the Elephant. Alright. Quick little preview here of, in theory, what you can expect on the podcast. I think the next episode is going to be Burn Notice. I have that recorded. I just have to edit it. Episode 7 of Screen Time is gonna be 007 Skyfall. I've known that before I uploaded episode 0.5. So I can tell you that. So I'm pretty sure the Super Mario Brothers movie is going to be episode 5. Burn Notice is going to be episode 6. 007 Skyfall is going to be episode 7. I feel like that's the best I can do for you right now. I'm thinking about doing a video game themed episode after Skyfall, because we've talked about TV, we've talked about movies. We haven't talked about games directly yet, so probably going to be top 5 FPS games. I don't know, but that's sort of a look forward into the podcast as far as I have it planned so far. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you liked the Super Mario Brothers movie as much as I did, and auf Wiedersehen.
What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music.
We're the Mario Brothers, and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers.
Hey, I like this. It's kind of like doo-wop. This is the kind of music you should be listening to.
Okay.